Hey everyone, this is Peggy with Sweet Tea Makery. Welcome back to my channel. So for today's Maker Monday tip, we're going to be talking about foam, glue, and mossing your containers. If you haven't already subscribed to my channel, please do so now. You can tap that red bell and it's going to notify you when I upload new content like my Maker Monday tips and some of the projects that I'm working on. So just a quick background to let you know that back in the 90s I went through a certification for interior decorating, and I found during that process that florals were very expensive to purchase. So I started making my own for myself, as well as to add during home staging and designing things like that. So I also worked for years full-time at a local university where I did very large special events. I was a special events coordinator, so and that all involved also having centerpieces and lots of other aspects to that. But anyway, so let's get back to our tips for today. So we're first going to talk about building our foam or foaming our containers. So when you have a deeper container such as this, you have to build, if you don't already have a piece that's going to fit in there that's perfectly designed for it, you are going to have to cut your own pieces. So I'm going to quickly show you how I do that, and rather than do all the excruciating noise of cutting styrofoam, I'm just going to kind of walk you through that process. So I take my floral block and I use a serrated knife, and when this is how I do it. There's several other ways you can do this, but this is my way. I score the outside of my container, and I will then cut it and then trim it to fit the container that I'm using. So that's the way that I cut it. So my next tip is that what we're going to do is we're going to pretend that this piece here is as tall as this. And why I'm doing that is so that you can actually kind of see like you're looking inside the box, okay? So I'm using smaller pieces here just as a representation. So, but what I will be using are the pieces I've cut to fit that. So my first tip about gluing is that building and gluing. So my recommendation is, and I see this mistake a lot. Well, I don't know if you call it mistake, but I see a lot of people doing this, and I just think it's not a good habit to form to do this. And I'll tell you why. So what you'll see is people globbing on glue and then gluing your pieces, your foam together to build up that foam. And my recommendation is to not do that. And the reason why is that when you do that and you add a layer of glue, you have now formed a barrier between these two pieces, so that when you go to insert your florals, it's going to stop there. Now you might get some of the thinner pieces in, but when you start using larger pieces, it doesn't really matter, but anyway, smaller pieces, it's going to cause a problem. So the best thing to do, and actually the way you should do this, is we'll use a smaller piece. So do not glue it, and what you normally, or what you should do, normally, but you can take your greenery sticks. They actually look like this. You can get taller and shorter ones. We'll just use one here that's an example. And again, pretending that this is a larger piece. So you would use these, and this is what creates the stability for your pieces here. And we'll show you shortly how I do it for this container, but you would place them here, 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 and probably in the middle. And so, and you can see that that's what's going to hold those pieces together. And that way, you're not struggling. A lot of times you'll see folks that are inserting their florals and they can't get it through, and then they use needle nose pliers to try to push it down in there and force it in there. And most likely that's because they've created that barrier of glue. And so we'll just take this apart real quick. Anyway, so that's the first tip that I wanted to talk to you about. So the second tip is that a lot of times, I mean, we all want to save money, okay? So there are times to save money, and there's times to do shortcuts, and there's times not to. So you'll see where someone will take a smaller piece like this, and then they'll try to build up their container like this. And although that seems to be economically sound to do that, here's the problem. So when you've done that and you start inserting your florals, now you have nothing here that's going to stabilize your florals as you insert them. And as you start inserting more and more, and even some of the larger pieces, after a while, this is sturdy, it's pretty sturdy, but after a while, and if you've created so many, it can break. And then you either have to take all your florals out, or you have to try to glue it back in. It's just not a very good way to do that. So what you need to do is actually cut sizes to fit together, because remember, we're building blocks, so to get it to the level that we want to use it, so we can insert our florals. So I'm going to show you quickly now how I do that. So I've already cut these pieces down, and I'm okay. It's just slightly below the actual container, and that's fine. So we're going to take our greenery sticks, and we're going to insert them as far as we can get them. And you don't have to use just these greenery sticks. You can use skewers. We'll use one here just so you can see. And I'd like to go around each corner and down in the center. And if you have any trouble getting them in, then you can take a little hammer and hammer it down. Sorry for the noise. And I think that one, yep, one's already down. And then we're just going to snip these off, okay? Whoa! It's always fun. And then we'll come along here. And I'll show you what we've done. So we snipped it off. And so now, you see, we have it nice and secure, and there's no glue barrier to prevent your prevent your florals when you're inserting your florals. So now that we've got that part done, let's talk about adding some moss. So this product that I'm using here is a natural Spanish moss that has been dyed to a green color, and it helps kind of hide that foam. So you don't want to use a lot. You can actually take a little bit less off. And in the beginning, you don't want to use a lot, but we will come back to that. We'll talk about this. So the next thing I'm going to do is actually, we're going to pin this down to give it some security. And I kind of, again, like to go to each of the corners, and we'll go down in the middle. Okay, so this is fine to begin with. And you can stretch it over a little bit, but for now it's okay if some of the floral foam is showing. So once you've inserted all of your desired silk florals, you want to come back because it's more professional looking if your foam isn't showing. Okay, so you want to come back, and I use a little different product for that. So once my design is already the way I want it, then I go back through and I use sheet moss. So I take that, and you can easily tear it, and then I just place it and kind of hide any of the places where the foam is showing. Okay, so let's just talk quickly too about this container. So when I purchased this container, it was just a plain box. That's fine to do, but a lot of times I see in department stores or local stores where you'll see florals that are already put together, and a lot of times they come in this plain kind of generic box. And so and that's fine if that's what you like. But what I will do is, when I purchase and use these types of containers, I will go to a local store and purchase either knobs or a handle like this one. You can usually get them for $1 or $2, or even when I go thrifting, if I see knobs, I pick them up and throw them in a box, and that way I can come back and really dress up my containers. As far as your customers are concerned, you have now elevated a plain box to something a little more decorative, and their perceived value of this container has substantially gone up. So for just $1 or $2 extra, and even 50 cents, sometimes knobs you can get them for 50 cents, just adding that little something to it really makes a difference. So as far as getting this container ready and set for our designing our silk floral arrangement, I want to talk to you also one more tip about gluing. So again, let's just put this in here. Yeah, we'll do it this way. So I'm just going to give it that stability. There we go. Perfect. So when you are designing with your silk florals, you only need to come up about 1 inch or so on your stem. And you don't really need much glue, okay? So you don't want to use a lot. So you've got it in lots of glue strings. Whoops. So you don't really need that much, okay? I mean, you don't really need much. So, and then you can just insert it in. And so what that does is now you only have a small amount of glue on the top layer of your foam. So if you were to use a large amount, it would start covering this, and it would be doing the same thing that we just talked about, creating that barrier. Now you're going to create a barrier on top of your foam, and it's going to get harder and harder and harder for you to insert those florals. We'll just take that back out. So that is the majority of my tips today, talking about foaming, gluing, and mossing your containers. I hope that these tips have helped you. If you would like to know more, please comment below if you have any questions. I'd be happy to try to answer those for you, or feature them on the next Maker Monday. Again, I thank you for joining me today. If you haven't already subscribed, please do so and tap that bell, and you'll be notified when my next Maker tip is uploaded. And in addition to that, I would love to see your floral designs. I am also on Facebook, so you can go over there to Sweet Tea Makery, and please do share your designs. I hope that you have a blessed day, and I can't wait to see you again on the next Maker Monday.